Welcome back to the 4 Days Coming Network. I have Regan Archibald with me today, and Regan is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for, Regan, 15 years or so through Strategic Coach that most of my clients know that I've been part of, and super excited to host you today to have a conversation about health. If you don't have your health, I don't care what your bank account, I don't care how many zeros it is, it just doesn't matter if you don't have your health. And we talk about creating memory dividends, which was written about in Die to Zero book. And you can't create memory dividends if you don't have your health, and you can't get out of the house or out of the chair, quite frankly. So anyway, I want to talk about health, but let's just back up a little bit. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then let's get into Ageless Future, kind of what you're doing around there. But just give us a little bit of background on you, Regan.
I've been obsessed with health ever since I was a teenager. Grew up on a cattle ranch. I had an uncle who was a doctor, and I wanted to be anything but a cattle rancher when I grew up. So I was like, I better do good in school and learn biology. And so that was, I've always wanted to make the football team, basketball team. And so I learned nutrition and supplements and all those things. And it was in my undergraduate work, I was just planning on being a conventional doctor, but I got really sick. And I got 5 doctors, ran my labs, and they said, everything looks normal. And I think all of us have been there when, someone runs your labs and they don't really give you any data that's meaningful. So I went to a naturopathic doctor who is also an acupuncturist. He ran the right labs, and he was like, hey, Regan, have you had any chemical exposures? And I was like, no, I grew up on a farm, pretty healthy, just a little bit of Roundup. And then, the doctor was like, your Roundup's a chemical. And I was like, no, it's safe. They told me it was safe. But turns out it was very damaging to my immune system. And it led to autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's. I had psoriasis. My skin was always flared up. I was in pain all the time. And so I ended up working with that doctor, and I had a nice recovery to my health, and ended up transitioning and going into a more integrated medicine and learning, the world of holistic care, running the right labs, functional medicine, and started Ageless Future 22 years ago. We've had a lot of people come who haven't had answers in other places. They're wondering why their energy is not as good as it was, why they can't build muscle, why their belly keeps growing even though they're eating less. And so, I've just been obsessed with helping healthy people get a little healthier.
Yeah, and I'm a client of yours, and we can get into a little bit of that. But let's have a conversation about traditional medicine. What do we call that? Western medicine, Eastern medicine, or whatever that is. But let's have that conversation, because there's, if I get cancer and I need to go and get, radiation or chemo or something like that, I think, most people in your shoes say, if you have to do that, you have to do it. But we can help supplement and help you recover, and that kind of thing. Like, I think we're getting over it's kind of like college. 25 years ago, everybody had to go get a 4-year degree, and that is changing, where it's like, let's go get the 2-year degree and go start welding and make more than a teacher potentially.
Right.
I think it's changing a little bit around medicine now too. And my experience has been, like, I love Mayo Clinic. It's close to us. Like, Rochester's an hour away. Like, if I have brain surgery or if I need it, like, I've got someone there. Like, it's awesome. But I also went through their executive health, and they didn't, I'm 52 years old. They didn't test for testosterone. There were some other things that they didn't test for. So how do you explain that when, like, are you a kook because you're not this Mayo Clinic doctor, and you're doing, like, how do you juggle that? How should people think about it?
Well, think about conventional medicine is based around the model of diagnose a disease and use symptoms and use basic labs to diagnose a disease, and then treat the disease with drugs or surgery, right? And it's a crisis care medicine. If you have a heart attack, you want to be at the Mayo Clinic, or if you have a cancer that needs to be removed, that's not what we're going to do. But there's nothing in Western medicine or conventional medicine that is designed to help build an operating system for your health. And that's the big difference is looking out for health optimization. That requires us to run deeper labs to understand the cause of the symptoms when they show up, and not just reacting and prescribing a drug. Why is your cholesterol high? Why is your blood pressure high? And your doctor will stop and say, well, it's just high, and take the medication. And then they think the work's done because now the system is managed. But a real health operating system is where you figure out the cause. You have your blood sugar is dysregulated and your adrenal glands are overburdened. That's what's triggering the high blood pressure. That's kicking out more aldosterone, or If you've got issues where you've got brain fog, it's like, well, let's run a scan, let's do a functional MRI in your brain, and let's make sure the gray matter is not shrinking and that there's not some vascular damage there from traumatic injuries to your head. It's just asking the question deeper around, why are you not feeling your best, looking your best, performing your best? And we don't take aging as that's not a correct answer. It's not like, oh, you're 60, you're supposed to be declining. It's like, no, we have people in their 60s. One of my former Major League Baseball players, he just turned 60 and he can outlift everything he could when he was in the major leagues. He's fitter, his VO2 max is better, he's stronger, and he's 60 years old. So we're just looking at peak performance. We want to extend that as far as we can throughout your life.
Yeah, hence the name Age's Future with your company. Why do you suppose, you can't speak on behalf of Mayo Clinic, but why do these doctors now, why didn't my testosterone get checked? Why didn't they check when you went and had your experience? Why didn't they look at different blood panels? Are they just not taught that? Or I know they care. It's not that they don't care, but they're too busy.
Sure.
Like, it's just, why don't they do it?
Well, most of the time it comes down to insurance. And so my insurance at the time as a student was like, you're gonna get your CMP and CBC. You'll get 12 to 24 markers that insurance will cover. Otherwise, there's a kickback. And so doctors have to have medical necessity in order to bill for services and testing. The fact that Mayo Clinic didn't run your testosterone would just suggest that the doctors probably aren't trained in hormone therapy. So even if they did discover you had low testosterone, they would not really have a treatment for you anyway. They just say, you have low testosterone, Brad. Good luck, go find somebody. That would be my assumption.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I've been going through this journey with you and with another doctor as well that's local. And what's been interesting is it's all about, you always use the word optimization. And I feel that. I feel like, why is this happening to this happening, and how do we put these pieces together? And one of the things that just happened is I didn't know what VO2 max was until I met you and started talking to you. And now I'm obsessed with trying to get that number higher. And there's places you can go to get these things tested and wearables and stuff like that. But I just went back and the scale was up 1 pound, but my lean mass was up 3 pounds and my fat mass was down 2 pounds. So actually my body percentage fat went down, but it's based upon not just exercise, but it's also, I just got off the phone with somebody to talk about what I'm doing from fitness, but also eating and things like that. Like, it's this whole program that's working kind of hand in glove. And so with that, let's talk about like peptides. I know it's a new term. You get it thrown, everybody's kind of throwing it out and they're just, hey, I'm going to throw this, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try that. How do you think about peptides? Are they good? Do you use them? And then how should the person listening to this think about it?
So in the world of what we call medicine 4.0, it's what are the small inputs that yield the biggest leverage when it comes to health optimization. And I got into peptides about 12 years ago. It was after I treated my brain with intranasal stem cells. It was just like a life-changing treatment for my ADHD. I've had a lot of concussions. And I started exploring ways of magnifying the expression of my brain. And I started exploring peptides like Cmax and cerebrolysin and NuPep, and I just found they were so beneficial. And then as I went deeper, I discovered there's peptides for the heart, there's peptides for muscle recovery, there's peptides for muscle building, there's peptides for sleep. And I realized that the body naturally makes peptides as signaling molecules, and that's how your cells communicate. That's what turns on genes that are underexpressed. So as we age, our body tends to lose the production of testosterone. We lose the ability to generate energy. Our mitochondria, they don't produce near the energy they did when we were kids. But with peptides, all it is sending a signal to the right place on the cell, and it turns on a gene so that now that cell can perform as if you're 10, 20, or even 30 years younger. And peptides are not like a drug where you have to stay on them the rest of your life. These performance peptides can literally just re-engineer the signaling factory of your cells. So it's like cleaning up communication. It's like you and I are on Riverside And Riverside is just a communication platform. And if you think about the cells, it's like if you and I wanted to meet and we didn't have this, or we didn't have the internet to keep us connected, we wouldn't have this conversation. Communication would lag and our relationship wouldn't be as strong. But that's what our cells need too. Our cells are just communication magnifiers. And peptides are that's the signal that allows the transmission to happen, similar to Riverside.
That's interesting. So is it, what's interesting is the repair piece of that. So when somebody has high blood pressure and you go to traditional medicine and they just give you, you're going to be on this statin or whatever for the rest of your life, and it's going to take care of your high blood pressure. When you think of peptides, do you think of it, and not high blood pressure, but something going on in your body, the peptides are actually helping your body recover and retrain? Is that how you think about it?
That's it. Yeah. So, if you mentioned a statin, which is typically for high cholesterol, and so there would be peptides that naturally allow that cholesterol, which gets accumulated in the bloodstream, which is not where you want it. You want cholesterol that's made by your liver to be producing testosterone and estradiol and progesterone. And so we can use peptides like epitalin, where it resyncs the whole hormone circadian rhythms, which is really exciting. Or if you take something like someone does have high blood pressure, for example, then we think, well, what's the signal that's being that's not there? Where's the deficiency in the peptide structure? And that's where we may use like BPC 157 and ARA 290, and that repairs that signaling process, so that now your body's blood pressure, the aldosterone that's being hyperproduced by the kidneys, now that can calm down and the symptoms go away. And it's not like a drug where you're masking a symptom, where it's just artificially suppressing something. It's actually just tuning up the genetics. And if you have the lifestyle that goes along with it, you get, you do a cycle of ARA 290, for example, blood pressure comes down, you pull off of it, your blood pressure stays at that same level. So that's the beauty of peptides. They're just changing the signal. And if you have the lifestyle that goes.
So interesting. So GLP-1s, we have to talk about it. So GLP-1s, are they a peptide?
That's a peptide.
Okay.
And it's the most popular peptide.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. It's like the fashion thing. And it's also scary to a lot of people, and myself, like just thinking through like what's going to be the outcome of these people long term. I'll give you an example. So I was just in and did my DEXA scan, as you know, that we just talked about with the lean mass and fat mass and all that. And the gal giving this to me told me that she had a gal come in that was on a GLP-1. She just bought it off the shelf or whatever, or somehow got it, and she's taking GLP-1. She was down 23 pounds. And she had her DEXA scan first, went on that. She'd down 23 pounds on the scale. When she did her DEXA scan, she actually lost 13 pounds of lean muscle mass being on this GLP-1. And then her fat percentage actually went up, even though the scale was down. So she wasn't as healthy, even though she lost weight. So how should people be thinking about it? Are they all evil and bad, don't use GLP-1s? Or how do people need to think about it, Regan?
Yeah, well, GLP-1's a glucagon-like peptide. It's a fascinating molecule, because what it does is it tells your brain that you're full. So it also slows down gastric emptying, so you're fuller sooner, so you don't overeat and overconsume. And with the appetite suppression, most people, when they get on it, they're on way too high of a dose. And like the lady that you mentioned, she was probably, hopefully she got it from a prescribed source, because 80% of people are buying peptides online. If you can buy a peptide without a doctor's prescription, run as fast as you can away from that. These are Chinese knockoffs. They're dangerous. We've tested those. So we only use peptides from 503A and 503B licensed pharmacies. They're overseen by the FDA. We have inspections all the time. But assuming it's from a reputable source and her doctor prescribed it, they put you on such a high dose, and that's the thing in the clinical studies. I mean, it's breathtaking the amount of GLP-1 someone's taking, because these peptides have the longest half-life of any peptide. It's 144 hours. And so that's why it's a weekly injection.
Okay.
And so you got to be careful with them, but they are probably the biggest medical breakthrough of our lifetime. There's a new one called, so she was on Ozempic or semaglutide, which is a single agonist. The new one came out because there's a lot of side effects with that, with nausea, pancreatitis. The thyroid starts to get downregulated because now your metabolic system's just trying to compensate for low caloric intake. When you're doing 1,000 calories a day, it doesn't end well. And so tirzepatide came out, and it's got a GI piece, so it's got two peptides together. And that did seem to be safer in the clinical studies and more effective at lowering hemoglobin A1C, help, they lost more weight. But the biggest one is retatrutide, triple agonist. And so that's where you actually are building lean muscle because it's working on the liver. So you get more activation of mitochondria. Your appetite suppression is not nearly as much. So you are eating more food, which is what we want. Like in yours, your DEX is ideal. If we can just keep increasing your muscle mass, your lean tissue mass, and decreasing the fat mass, it's not a race. But, you imagine you keep doing that every 6 months, you put on another pound or two of muscle. Like that's the best way of having long-term sustained health, from a body composition perspective. But
Right.
the big problem is the dosing's too high that doctors are prescribing, and then people don't have the lifestyle to go along with it. They don't have, like you met with Nikki on our team. She's got her master's degree in exercise physiology. She's brilliant. But we look at exercise as medicine. She's like, Brad, if you want to get your VO2 max to the elite level, which is the goal, here's what you need. Your Norwegian 4x4, right?
4x4. I'll be running tomorrow.
Yeah, so you need a team around it. Like a lot of people, especially young kids in their like late teens and early 20s, are just jumping on peptides that they get on TikTok. And we're seeing more and more of them come into the office and say, hey, I'm having these side effects. Can you help? So don't play with fire.
Yeah, I had an acquaintance the other day tell me that they're putting they opened up his back and put testosterone stuff in for 6 months. And then I'm like, well, who's doing this? And it's somebody that does Botox and things like that. It just didn't feel right. Like that might be okay, but so there's so much stuff out there. So then let's transition and say, okay, so somebody's listening to this and said, yes, I want to engage with somebody that's going to be a holistic, look at everything and help me. I know what the experience was like with me. Like you and I've known each other for a long time, but it's to start with the consultation, and then we have a monthly investment that I pay to you to be able to meet with these people and things. I know I'm signed up for a year to go through this, and then there'll be, some stuff that'll go ongoing. But what's it look like for somebody to engage with your team, Regan?
Well, the first thing is, we'll set up a consultation. You'll meet with one of our health ascension specialists and talk about your health goals. And then second step is get your blood labs ran. We run very comprehensive blood labs. We don't want to play guessing games with your health because to your point, someone can lose a lot of weight and they can feel good, but we do a DEXA scan where you've lost only muscle. This is a problem. We want to be on top of things, but blood labs are really where it starts. And once they have the blood labs, they'll meet with one of our providers, and then we put together a very personalized medical program where we stack peptides. We're not like other doctors who they just are getting into peptides and they'll be like, maybe you should get on BPC, or maybe a GLP-1 would be good. And then they leave it up to you to choose. We actually give you the structure, and then we work as a team and saying, okay, how are you doing on this protocol? Let's tweak some things here and there. But generally speaking, we put together very strategic protocols with peptides, and people get great results.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, things have changed almost monthly on different cycles. Things change because you're working on a different part, to your point. And so, I'm about 5 months into this, and certainly I've seen results and a true believer of what you guys are doing. You're located in Utah, and people certainly can come out there and do some DEXA and stuff like that. But, it's all been remote. I, meet with you, Trudy meets with someone else. You've got this cadence kind of figured out, which has been great. And you obviously can't serve everybody that's out there, but you do have some capacity to take on a few more clients to continue to work with them. Is that correct?
Yep. We have a great team, and we're growing quickly. We are licensed in all 50 states. So no matter where you are, even if some international clients we work with, as long as you have trips to the United States occasionally.
Yeah. What is it? What's the best outcome for a client? Is it a 12-month process, and then is it kind of maintenance after that? What's that look like? Because you can't just do 3 months of this and be done. Like you need to be able to change your life and fix stuff.
Yeah, what we've found is that once, that the first 6 months is really where we're just removing interferences, downregulating inflammation, just seeing how your body adapts to the treatments. And then, the next 6 months is all about optimization and rebuilding and regeneration. But then we go, year after year, there's always new therapies, there's new things to work on based on what people's goals are. So our goal is we want to have lifetime relationships with our clients. We want to add enough value where it's like, I would be ridiculous not to do something like this for my health every year. And yes, things are going to shift. We don't keep you on the same peptide or the same protocol because just like your biology shifts, like the market shifts, we want to be able to adapt and help you handle the changes, handle the stressors that come into your life.
Yeah, yeah. We should talk real quickly about finances. So not covered by insurance, right? So that's the other thing. Like people need to understand that they're paying and investing in themselves. And again, back to where we started, if you don't have your health, you don't have your wealth, but they need to put their own money up to be able to work with somebody like you. It's not insurance, right?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. 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 So people just need to understand that piece of it. So that's great. And I would say if you want to get in touch with Ageless Future, get a hold of me and I can make an introduction to Regan's team and then you can have a consultation. Does it cost anything for that initial? I mean, you do your blood work. Is there any fee for that? Okay.
Not at all. And typically our blood work with health span assessment, it's a $1,500 value. Your clients, you just let them know that you came through Brad and we'll waive the fee. We'll run your blood labs. We'll do all the upfront work and then you can decide if you want to engage with us from there.
Awesome. That's really grateful of you. Thank you so much for that. Well, Regan, I really appreciate it. Hopefully this gives some perspective into this new era that we're in that people need to be paying attention to and be working with. And truly appreciate your friendship and your help and everything else.
Yeah, appreciate you, Brad. Keep up the great work. You're looking awesome.
All right. Thank you.